Welcome back. We now have a very interesting session titled At the Cutting Edge, the impact of blockchain and cryptocurrency in finance. And it's an absolute delight to welcome the members of this session, Jillian Godsil, Editor-in-Chief, contributing journalist, Blockleaders, ITN, CoinDesk, Nischal, Shetty, founder at WazirX. Welcome, Jillian and Nischal. And this session will be moderated by Mihir Gandhi, partner and leader, Payments Transformation, PwC India. Mihir, the virtual floor is all yours.
Thanks, Ivan. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. What we have today for this session is, talking about the impact of cryptocurrency and blockchain in our current environment. We have two of industry leaders in this context, and I would like to start the conversation with Jillian. And Jillian, maybe to get your perspective and views on what do you believe is the impact of cryptocurrency specifically globally. How have consumers reacted to that, and what are the regulators thinking about this? So if you can give a global perspective, and then maybe we'll go to Nischal for the India view.
Well, thank you very much, Amir, and thank you for inviting me, and I'm delighted to be here. It's morning here in Ireland. Impact of cryptocurrencies, that's a very good question, and it can't be answered in a single way. You asked about how it impacts consumers and also regulators, how they are reacting to it. I think I first of all would like to say that in the Western world, it's quite a different experience to the emerging world. In the Western world, cryptocurrencies are seen as a lot of FOMO, to the moon, hodling, stuff like that. So it's a question of, because most people in the Western world have bank accounts, they have access to credit, there's a lot of layers there that are taken as granted. It is seen, however, as an expression of freedom, and that's important. However, in the developing world, it's much more serious than just an expression of freedom. It is an actual freedom. It's a lifeline. And in many countries where their own currencies have become redundant or useless, it's become very important because people can access microloans, they can access credit, because a large proportion of the people in the developing world are unbanked. So it's a very different experience from where you're living and your financial experiences. And secondly, with regards to the regulators, it's like square pegs into round holes. I think, honestly, that old TradFi is very broken. It's been shown to be broken in 2008, and yet these same people are trying to impose the broken rules on a new system. So it doesn't actually make any sense. There needs to be a lot of rethinking here. And the narrative a lot from TradFi is that cryptocurrencies are facilitating illegal trading and, all this sort of, it is nonsense really, because we know that fiat is used a lot more for illicit trading than cryptocurrencies. And cryptocurrencies are not anonymous. They're pseudo-anonymous, which is a big difference. So in summary, it depends where you live and your financial circumstances. I do see them as being a lifeline, and even as an expression of freedom. That's pretty cool too. And regulators, it's tough. I don't know how it's going to work out, but currently I'm not very impressed with a lot of what world banks are doing, or the UN. They're very slow, I think, in my opinion.
Sure, great. Thanks, Jillian, for your views. So you said in the developed world, it is more on the FOMO side, and people want to take a stab at it and get in and try to dabble in that. But in the developing world, it's a different environment, and people are still trying to figure that out. So thanks so much, Jillian, for your views. Nischal, I wanted to specifically ask you, what are your views on crypto in the Indian context, given that so much has already been spoken about, and you have been running this company. So if you can please provide your views, that'll be great.
I think first and foremost, I think FOMO is everywhere. So it's the same that we're seeing in India and rest of the world. But the bigger underlying factor, at least in India, that is pushing this is, let's look at the demographic of India. We have a large population which is in the 22 to 30 year range. And this is the population that identifies with crypto. And there might be a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason is because the traditional world is just so, I would say, old, and there are already people with tens of years of experience holding strong positions, that for the youth, this seems like that they get to build. And I think that is pushing them. Crypto. The second is the love for technology in India. We are a tech nation. A lot of us are into technology. So when we see finance and technology mixing together in crypto, that just gets us excited. So I think that's the other important factor. The third is, I think it's just the opportunity that crypto provides you. The traditional financial system seems like that local national games that you play, and crypto seems like that international experience that you get, because you get to compete with everyone around the world. It's not restricted only to your geography, and that's very exciting and thrilling for everyone. So I think those are some, and it's a lot like the old school where it was writing emails, where the new way is get into chat. So and that's where you see the demographics shifting to chat, starting with the newer population, and that's what we are seeing in India. Apart from that, I think in 2020, one of the biggest things that happened in India was the Supreme Court overturning the RBI ban. That gave a lot of push for crypto in India. The other was the lockdown. So what happened in the lockdown was people had a lot of time on their hands to spend online. And when you are sitting online, you want to learn about new things. And there's nothing more exciting and newer than crypto. So we saw a lot of people educating themselves on crypto, which again gave this huge push for crypto adoption in India. Now, in terms of application, I think there are quite a few applications that are emerging. Remittance being one of those really big ones, because India is a nation which gets a lot of remittance. And if you see the traditional remittance route, it takes about 2-3 days or a week for the money to come. Out here with Bitcoin, you could just send it to your family members instantly. So that's really taking a good push. Then the whole, I think, to Jillian's view of the developed nations having bank accounts. Yes, it is true that in India you have a lot of unbanked population, and to them, I think crypto seems to be that natural way to just get into the digital economy, the digital financial economy, without having a bank account. All you need is a mobile phone and an internet, and we have a lot of such people in the country. So that's seeing rapid adoption. I think these are some of the top points I can think of in terms of what is working for crypto in India.
Thanks, Nischal. Useful to understand, how this is panning out and what were the factors that led to the adoption of crypto in India. So thanks for that. I had a follow-on point, which we've heard and read about a lot, is essentially that when we talk about crypto, a lot of regulators across the world, and maybe even in India, they say that it is not backed by any legal tender or legal backing. It may be speculative, right? That's what they say. So what are your views, Nischal, on that? And maybe I'll also jump on to Jillian to get her views for this specific point.
Look, I think I largely believe this argument comes from a lack of deeper understanding of what crypto is and the technology, because the first and foremost, not all crypto is currency. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions that exists. So the mental model for someone who does not understand crypto is that they think it's a currency and it's here to compete with fiat. Now, if you get past that, you'll realize that every crypto has very specific use cases. Let's take the example of Ethereum and Ether. Ether is a currency. If you think about a currency where you're exchanging it for something in return, but it's only used in the Ethereum blockchain. If I want to run a smart contract, I cannot use a traditional currency. I have to use Ether to run a smart contract on Ethereum. So it's a very specific use case, and you just can't run the Ethereum blockchain without Ether. So this, when you think about these new use cases that are emerging, you'll realize that the crypto ecosystem is not here to replace what exists in the traditional world, but it's here to create a new world, just like the internet did. The internet did not really kill. If you look at the numbers, internet did not kill businesses. It added more value. It created new businesses online, and that is what crypto is going towards. So I think it's a lack of deeper understanding, I believe, when these arguments come about, not backed by value, or it's competing with. Sure, there are some cryptos which might want to compete directly, and I think this is where regulations will come in, and regulations will make it clear that once you categorize particular crypto into different categories, the assets and the utilities are where the largest cryptos exist, and that is something that's a new world that's being created. So I don't really buy the argument that they're not backed by value. Every crypto has some specific use case, and that is the value that it brings to the table.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nischal. Jillian, maybe your views on this topic.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to add in here. Nishal's 100% right. It's all about education. And there is this whole fear because change is frightening, and the status quo is worried by change, because obviously if intermediaries are not required, then the banking sector loses its stranglehold on the world's power and decisions. But even more important than explaining, or in conjunction perhaps explaining what crypto is and what the different coins do and what Bitcoin can do and all about, what is value, is to explain our fiat money. I remember the first time I did an interview about crypto, and the reporter said, but crypto is not backed by gold. I went, neither is currency anymore. So we really need to teach in our schools about Bretton Woods, about quantitative easing, about haircuts. And those are really important things to explain what is money, because if you don't know what money is, then how can you say crypto is good and fiat is bad? There are changes. And I also think, so we need to teach the history of real money, as in, when I say real, I mean as in fiat, traditional money, and also the history of economics. Economics is not a science. It's a system of value points that change over time. So things like inflation and constant growth, all these things that we think, oh, they're facts. Actually, no, they're not. So education is key in all this, and to understand what is money. And this is actually the point I was going to make at the very end, but I'm going to make now because it's relevant. What is the meaning of money, whether it's crypto or fiat? And I think this is so important. If we teach our kids in school, and the oldies and the people out, in the real world and all the rest of it, what is money? Money is putting a roof over your head, is putting food on the table, and it's enabling you to follow your dreams, whether your dreams are to be a landscape gardener, a doctor, a writer, an Amazon creator, whatever it is. So when we stand back and say, well, what is money? It facilitates us being able to live in a community and interact and share things and buy things and sell things. And it takes away all the fear. It's education. So it's not what it's based on, because it's education, fiat, crypto, whatever we're using. People exchange, they use handbags as a means of exchange. So it's education, I think.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Jillian. Thanks for your views. I had one question for you, Jillian. How do we drive more adoption and increase usage of crypto going forward? What are your views?
Okay, well, again, education is very important. Also, I'm a journalist, so I believe it's my role to communicate this, not just to the crypto world, but outside it. And actually, funny enough, I was going to say to Nischal earlier, he was saying about the young people in India. And I come from Ireland, and until recently, we had a very young population. Now we've got an aging population, such as the factor of time. But it's for oldies as well. It's not just for young people. So, and I think it needs to be easier. It is becoming easier. Right now, it's kind of tough, all your private keys and all. I get the whole decentralization and the freedoms, but it's not easy to use. It has to be easy to use. So education, make it easier to use. And then and my particular role is to be an advocate for crypto, to explain what it is. It's not scary. I often say, here I am, a middle-aged, middle-class lady. I'm not scary. And if I like it, you can like it. It's not about drugs. It's about freedoms. It's about helping people and empowering the disenfranchised, which for me is a wonderful, wonderful story.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jillian. Nischal, I had one last question for you. We are on time. So from a regulatory or a risk perspective, what do you believe India needs to do more or better to kind of, drive the adoption of this crypto?
Look, I think regulation is definitely needed in this space. Right now, it's the wild, wild west. And while there are a lot of good actors, we can't really keep away the bad actors. It's unregulated. Anyone is free to do what they think. And I think this is where regulations will make sure that a clean ecosystem gets created in the country, and it ensures consumer protection to a large level, which is very important because we are dealing with money as well. There's value out here that is being created. The other thing is the current regulatory uncertainty also scares a lot of people. So while we might have 15 to 20 million people in India into crypto, I'm sure there are 40 to 50 million sitting on the sidelines waiting for some clarity from the government before they can get into this. And I think bringing that clarity will push the crypto ecosystem faster and further in India. The other important thing I think is that now, if you think about it, India is still on par with the rest of the world because regulations have not really taken off yet. So India has a chance to be probably one of those early movers. And good regulation brings in a lot of investments. It creates a lot of startups. It pushes the nation to go faster in this technology. Though now, having said that, I think the whole size of our nation made it really difficult to come up with regulation immediately. So a step before regulation would be guidelines. like, release a set of things, do's and don'ts, that companies and startups in the country should and should not do in crypto. I think that will be a good first step for India.
Great. Thanks a lot, Nischal. And I'm sure you, along with a lot of ecosystem players, are working, with maybe the regulators to kind of help go in this direction. So I'm very excited and looking forward to what's in store in the next few years for crypto in India. So thanks, Nischal and Jillian, for your views. I think we are on time. I would like to hand it back to Ivan, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mihir.
Thank you.
I must say that was sensational, given that you had only 15 minutes. The title of the session, At the Cutting Edge, really, it befitted this session because there were some cutting edge insights presented by Jillian and Nischal on crypto, blockchain, and the impact in finance. So I'm on behalf of the members of the audience, I'd like to say a big thank you, Jillian and Nischal, for taking time off from your busy schedules and joining us at this summit. And Mihir, if it weren't for those targeted questions, you wouldn't have elicited those responses. So thank you so much for doing a wonderful job of moderating this session. We wish you and your respective organizations the very best going forward.
Thank you, indeed.
Thanks a lot.
You stay tuned in, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back on the other side with the trialogue, the first of the trialogues, in a few minutes from now.